everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about the limited archetypes in the new set, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We're going to talk about the overall strategy of the archetype and take a look at one of the signposts uncommons in the archetype, to kind of get a vibe for how it's going to work, and then we're going to talk about it very briefly. Let's do it. Let's start with white-blue, which is Ultec Ingenuity, which translates to artifact control. So the point of blue and white is to control your opponent with counter magic, removal spells, and then take over the game with a bunch of artifacts and artifact synergies. The signpost uncommon is Master's Guile Mural. It's an artifact. When it enters, create a 4/4 white and blue goblin artifact creature token. It can craft with artifact for a ton of mana, so it's a reasonable mana dump as well. Makes sense with control decks. To flip it, to tap and create a 4/4 white and blue golem artifact creature token, and you can only use that activated ability if another artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, so it continues to reward the artifact synergies and is a reasonable control finisher. Blue and black is Descend Control. Again, another control strategy where you counter and kill your opponent's threats. Its signpost uncommon is, I'm not pronouncing that, The Great Mistake, is a 5-mana 6/4 with Vigilance and Menace, and has Descend 8, meaning that if you have 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, you can pay 6 mana to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Finality counters, by the way, are you get exiled when it dies. And so in this strategy, you're not only controlling your opponent, but you're very rewarded for having permanents in your deck and to be able to discarding permanents and putting permanents in the graveyard. And then that's how you finish instead of artifacts like in blue-white. Black and red is Descend, but with an aggro element, using the synergies from these Descend cards and then jamming as hard as possible. The signpost uncommon is Zoyoya Lava Tongue. Is a 2-mana 2/2 Goblin Warlock with Death Touch. It's already great. And at the beginning of the end step, if you descended this turn, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. And it deals 3 damage to each opponent who didn't. So this puts a lot of pressure on your opponent's cards. Descend meaning a permanent entered the battlefield. Red-green is the dinosaur typal strategy with dinosaur synergies and all of that. Normally kind of a beatdown deck. Its signpost uncommon is not pronouncing that either. Firstborn of Gishath, a 2-mana 2/3 dinosaur with haste. And when it enters the battlefield, you can pay 2 generic. And when you do, target dinosaur you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. That's actually incredible. Because dinosaurs are already very big. And so having a fight on a stick is just insane. Playing creatures, dinosaur cool stuff. Synergies, attack. Green-white is an aggro strategy, but with a bunch of combat tricks. Its signpost uncommon is Kutzil Malamet Exemplar, which is the 3-mana 3/3. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Already great, and it kind of stifles your opponent from being able to use combat tricks or combat removal spells or things like that. Whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And so that also rewards putting counters on things, pumping things up, because it makes their power different than their base power. So aggro combat tricks. Black-white is Vampire Aristocrat. So there's Vampire typal thing going on, but also it's an Aristocrat strategy, meaning rewarding sacrificing permanents. Its signpost uncommon is Bartholomew del Presidio, probably. Is a 2-mana 2/1, where you sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on that name. There's your sack outlet, and there's a bunch of other things in these colors that reward you sacrificing. Blue-red is an artifact aggro strategy, having artifact synergies of blue, but remaining very aggressive in red. Its signpost uncommon is Captain Storm, Cosmium Raider. It is a 2-mana 2/2. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target pirate you control. So it looks like there's also a pirate typal thing going on. And so this is a color combination where you have rewards for having artifacts where you get more aggressive. Black-green is a Descend mid-range strategy, where it just plays kind of better cards than your opponent and rewarding with Descend. Its signpost uncommon is Akawali, the Seething Tower. It is a 3-mana 3/3 with Descend 4, so as long as there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, it gets +2/+2 and has trample, and Descend 8, where as long as there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, has an additional +2/+2 and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. And so this is a finisher in the late game, a decent creature in the early game. Doesn't affect the board except by being a giant creature, possibly, but sometimes that's good enough. Red-white is a mid-range strategy that rewards tapping, so having a lot of permanents, tapping them to pay costs and things like that. Its signpost uncommon is a 4-mana 4/4 named Kaparokti Sunborn, human soldier, that when it attacks, you may tap 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. If you do, discover 3, which is effectively Cascade. So rewarding you for having permanents that you can tap when things happen. by getting more aggressive. Blue-green is mid-range, where you reward the Explore mechanic. Its signpost uncommon is Nikanzil, Current Conductor, which is a 2-mana 2/3 merfolk. Whenever a creature you control explores a land card, you may put a land card from the hand onto the battlefield tapped. Whenever a creature you control explores a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Explore, by the way, is when a creature explores, you look at the top card of your library. You can reveal it if it's a land card, you put it into your hand. You can reveal it if it's a non-land card. The creature gets +1/+1, and then you can put it into your graveyard if you want. So huge rewards for having other creatures that explore. That makes sense for this mid-range strategy. There's also a merfolk typo thing going on, but it's secondary, kind of like the pirates. Those are all of the 2-color archetypes in Lost Caverns of Ixalan Limited. If you want to see more videos like this and like these videos, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social media. Links are above me and in the description, especially on Twitter and Discord. Join the communities there. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.